Welcome to Spokane Talks, where you find news, views, and conversation that includes respect for opinions, facts, and diversity. Spokane Talks is brought to you in part by McNeese Wheeler Attorneys, Ponderosa Republican Women, and Rana Paint.
Welcome to Spokane Talks, news, views, and conversation. I'm Ryan McNeese. On tonight's episode, we have the new Dean of the Gonzaga University School of Law, Dr. Jacob Rooksby, talking about the future of legal education. Following that, we have Ed 101 and the principles of mathematics, as well as Library Out Loud, discussing the book, The Spokane River. And finally, Cindy Haval with The Front Porch. Thanks for joining us.
Ponderosa Republican Women is a club with members that come from every part of Spokane County. Although they differ in age, occupation, ethnic background, and cultural heritage, these women and many men stand together to promote government based on conservative principles, discover lifelong friendships, meet elected officials and candidates, hear challenging speakers, receive campaign training, and learn about the electoral process. Our meetings take place on the second Thursday of every month. Follow Ponderosa Republican Women on Facebook for more information.
Welcome to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeese, and we're here in the studio with Dr. Rooksby, the new Gonzaga Law School Dean. Thank you for being here.
Great to be here, Ryan.
Well, as you embark on this new journey, and we appreciate you making a significant move with your family across country, what are some of the initial initiatives that you're going to be looking to work with faculty as well as staff to promote?
Great question. So right away, we're looking to do two things. Mm-hmm. Take the law school further into the university and take the law school further into the Spokane community. So one of the things that drew me to this position was the great university that we have here in Gonzaga. School of Leadership, School of Nursing, School of Business, School of Education, all kinds of wonderful programs going on. I want to see the law school get further involved in collaborations with those schools. So we're already starting to do that in terms of educational programming and collaboration across disciplines, right, which I think will be a benefit to our students. The other thing is taking advantage of all that Spokane has to offer. The medical community, the legal and business community. We have a thriving intellectual property community. This region is becoming well known for its wine and agriculture.
Absolutely.
So these are all ways for us to connect as a law school in new ways with the Spokane community in terms of getting our students out there in the community. Already done a great job of that historically. We're going to even take it into a higher gear in the next couple of years. Our faculty as well, and many of the great things that they're doing with their scholarly work.
Well, and as you indicated, opportunities to promote what the faculty is doing, both nationally, locally, nationally, and internationally, that really just that story hasn't been told for a while, and I think there's some real opportunities to engage and tell the story of the scholarly nature of the faculty.
Absolutely. One example would be Professor Jason Gilmer and the Center for Civil and Human Rights. We're having a flagship event on September 28th to really launch this center, bringing in all kinds of superstar academics from across the country to participate in some panel discussions of real importance about the future of social justice lawyering. That's just one example of some of the things that we're talking about.
Well, there's significant opportunities. You indicated there's one example with Professor Gilmer, but across the board, the diversity of the faculty as well as staff. And again, so exciting, the opportunities, I think, and the hope for where Gonzaga Law is going to go. It's already had massive accomplishments over the years with prior Dean Korn did a fantastic job.
She did.
But I think what's fascinating to me about you, Dr. Rooksby, is you have a passion for not only the legal side as an attorney, but the education side. And when we come back from break, I want to talk about the book you've written that combines those two passions. So let's take a break and come right back.
The following is sponsored by our friends and community supporters at McNeese Wheeler Attorneys. McNeese Wheeler is a boutique law firm in Spokane, handling matters in both Washington and Idaho. Areas of law include business law, wills, trusts and estates, family law, personal injury and wrongful death, and real estate matters. For your full-service legal needs, contact McNeese Wheeler Attorneys.
Welcome back to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeese, and in the studio with Dr. Rooksby. And just before the break, I was commenting on the fact that you've really done an amazing job of combining your passion for the law, passion for education, and innovation. Tell us about your book that embodies IP and innovation.
Sure. The book is called The Branding of the American Mind, available on Amazon.com and fine bookstores everywhere. It is a book that really tells a story about change in higher education. And this is what excites me about this opportunity here to lead Gonzaga, because we face a time of enormous change in higher education nationwide as institutions have to think more critically about the business side of their operation. And so that's part of what we're doing. We're trying to reach students in new ways and new methods. We're very active on social media now as an institution.
And if I could, I'd like to point out, I think that's a major advancement that you yourself have really made some bold steps to be involved in social media for the school.
Well, thank you. And we have a whole team of people who are really helping. Our staff is excellent. But I have an Instagram account, for example, Zag Law Dean, that's a way for prospective students, current students, and alums to really learn what we're doing at Gonzaga. We're also, really active on other forms of social media as well, reaching students through text message. Right, gone are the days of waiting for that envelope to come in the mail. Many students don't check their mail. So all of this is speaking to the new markets for students, the new realities for those of us who work in higher ed.
Well, I think it's just a great example of how you're reaching across maybe traditional barriers to engage in a whole new way. I think, as we've said in prior conversations, you have to respect history to know how to potentially change it.
Yeah, we want to lower the barriers to entry for people thinking about pursuing a legal education. And legal education should be more than just a JD degree. Some students, lifelong learners, for example, in different business sectors, they want to learn just a little bit about the law. And perhaps we can offer that to them through a certificate program, through some educational programming in the community. So we'll be adding all of that to our curriculum going forward is the goal.
Well, I think it's pretty clear you have the tools in the tool belt with Gonzaga Law, with the Maine University, and the team in which you work is just an incredible group of people. I personally, as a Gonzaga grad, am excited about the future, excited to have you here, and thank you for your time. We look forward to not only digging into your book, but also the initiatives that you're looking to push forward in the next couple of years.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you so much.
Great to speak with you.
I appreciate your time, Dr. Rooksby.
Next up on Spokane Talks, the principles of mathematics on Ed 101.
Ponderosa Republican Women is a club with members that come from every part of Spokane County. Although they differ in age, occupation, ethnic background, and cultural heritage, these women and many men stand together to promote government based on conservative principles, discover lifelong friendships, meet elected officials and candidates, hear challenging speakers, receive campaign training, and learn about the electoral process. Our meetings take place on the second Thursday of every month. Follow Ponderosa Republican Women on Facebook for more information.
And welcome to Education 101. I'm your host, Eric Wolfram, and with me today is Deborah Kolkowski from Educational Service District 101. And we're going to be talking about real-world mathematics, especially around the idea of estimation. So welcome today, Deb.
Thanks for having me again.
Excellent. So real-world estimation. What we're going to do is we're going to do a little activity because you're going to kind of show us what real-world estimation, how we do that, and how somebody at home might even be able to do this with a jar and Skittles with their kids.
Right, or they could take this idea and create their own very easily. So, often when you walk into a carnival or you're at a hardware store, I've seen it with estimate the number of peanuts.
Sure.
I've seen the big jar of the cheese puffs, the little balls where they estimate the number in the whole jar. So we have a jar of Skittles right here.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you to make an estimation of how many Skittles do you think could be in the jar?
Well, just looking at it, I'm going to guess 463.
Okay, 463.
Yep.
Because we know that if I guess 10 Skittles, that's an unreasonably low estimate.
Right.
Just as if I guessed 1 million, it would be way too high.
We need a bigger jar.
So that would be a reasonable estimate. And then I might ask you how you came to that. How did you come up with 463?
You know, I just kind of looked at how many I thought were in here, and I know that it's completely full. So I just kind of said, I'm going to take a wild guess. And 463 came to my mind.
Okay. All right. Well, that's one way to do it. There are some math strategies that you could use that might help you refine your thinking or give you some strategies to make a more accurate estimation.
Okay.
And this actual task that is available online for free is highly aligned to a first grade math standard where we talk about place value ones and tens and hundreds.
Okay.
So you might be able to do that, but if it's just straight estimation, it really doesn't matter. So one of the things that I would do with you is I would give you what we call a smaller case or a smaller number to consider. So I'd actually set the quart jar aside and I'd ask you to estimate how many Skittles are in the light bulb. Instead of the quart jar, how many do you think are in the light bulb?
So trying to think about the comparison between the light bulb and the quart jar, I would say 90.
Okay. And we'd think about just the 90 that are in the light bulb. And if I tell you that I know how many Skittles are in the light bulb, but before I do that, I'm going to ask you, how did you come up with 90? Did you just guess off the top of your head, or did you use any strategy?
Well, kind of a smaller group than what we had before. And so I tell you what, you know the number. Let's take a quick break.
Okay.
And then when we come back, why don't you tell me what the number is?
Okay.
So we'll be right back on Education 101.
The following is sponsored by our friends and community supporters at McNeese Wheeler Attorneys. McNeese Wheeler is a boutique law firm in Spokane, handling matters in both Washington and Idaho. Areas of law include business law, wills, trusts and estates, family law, personal injury and wrongful death, and real estate matters. For your full-service legal needs, contact McNeese Wheeler Attorneys.
And welcome back to Education 101. So right before the break, we were talking about how many Skittles were inside the light bulb. I said 90, and you have the actual answer. What is it?
I do. And we should have talked about it is totally full.
Yes.
And there are actually 115 Skittles in the light bulb. So you were very close. That's a pretty reasonable estimation. So now my question for you really wasn't, let's go back to the carnival or the hardware store, wherever the contest is. It wasn't about the number of Skittles in the light bulb.
Right.
It was about the number of Skittles in the quart jar. So when you think about it, how could you use this information to perhaps refine your original estimate was 463 for the jar.
So I think, honestly, what I would do, the way that I do this is I'm a little visual. I see one right in the middle. I see one light bulb this way. I see one light bulb upside down right in the middle. And I see along the top, I see maybe 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the same thing below, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would say 2 layers of 5 light bulbs. And so if it's 115, I'm going to round to 100, and let's call it 1,000. I'm rounding again, just to kind of give an estimation, which is quite a bit different than my 463.
It is. And I'm assuming you're rounding because you can do that in your head very quickly.
It makes it a lot easier,
right. So there are actually 963 Skittles in here. So you were, 923.
Okay,
so you were really
still,
close.
I'll give it. That's
very
way better
reasonable.
than 463.
It's a reasonable estimate. And this is just one of many tasks that are available for teachers, or parents could look at them at Graham Fletcher's website. That's gfletchy.com.
Right.
And if you, with very little time, you could search it and find it. There's also a video clip that shows him filling this and using that as part of your estimation.
And you could even use the small Skittle packets.
Yep.
I mean, again, it's the idea of having communication and talking with kids. This could be done at home. It's, during the summertime, during breaks, on the weekends, anything like that. These kinds of activities, and from gfletchy.com as well. There's a lot of those that we can access and use at home to start to kind of build that math knowledge and those skills. So, Deb, thank you so much for being with us today. I hope you enjoyed the show, Education 101. We'll catch you next time.
Up next, Library Out Loud host Jane Baker sits down with author Paul Lindholt to discuss his new book, The Spokane River, the Gem of the Inland Northwest.
Hello and welcome to Library Out Loud. I'm Jane Baker, the Communication Director for the Spokane County Library District. Joining me today is Dr. Paul Lindhold. Hello. Thank you for joining me. We are talking about a book that not only have you written, but edited, this anthology about the Spokane River. Very excited to talk about this. I am working my way through it and I'm loving it so far. And I know you're not going to give away any spoilers, but let's talk about this book a little bit. How did this start?
I realized there was an unfilled niche on the river in the Spokane community. Mm-hmm. And so I began by enlisting the great writers in our midst and by writing grants that would reward them with a pittance each for their writing. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to thank the Smith Barbieri Foundation for funding this, the Columbia Institute, the Community Building Foundation, and the Northwest Institute for Graduate Study, all of which threw a little money my way so I could turn it to the photographers and the writers.
Oh, it's absolutely fabulous. How many authors do you have in here?
I think there are 28.
28 authors, and it's a wonderful anthology, all kinds of stories. And it's in 3 sections, and you did that on purpose. You have devised an excellent product here, let me say. So we start out with literary, and you have authors such as Todd Marshall, and then you go into some cultural history and society, and you have some Native American authors, and then you go into an environmental, as you call the harder science.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I wanted to say at this point that I would not have done the project had I not gotten entire buy-in from the Spokane Tribe of Indians. Mm-hmm. So 2 members of that tribe have written chapters for us, and 2 others came close to having the time to do it. And then I have a really good chapter by archaeologists who studied the depth of history the tribe enjoyed on the river.
There's wonderful stories in there. So all the proceeds for this book go to the Spokane River Keepers, and you can find out more about them, but they help take care of the river at SpokaneRiverKeeper.org, and you'll see they do events for litter cleanup. They help with the Toxics Task Force education outreach, monitor water quality, and they hold the railroads accountable for helping protect the river. So great things in here and a great cause that all the proceeds go to. What we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk more about this book, and you can tell us where we can pick it up and help support the River Keepers and read some wonderful work all at the same time. We'll be right back on Library Out Loud.
See you tomorrow night, and thanks again for taking care of the painting.
I got this.
Bye.
Weekends are made for painting. Let the experts at Rada Paint take care of you.
Hi. This looks amazing.
Rada Paint, over 80 years of quality, tradition, and trust. Find it in every can.
Welcome to Spokane Talks. We have had the opportunity to be out here on the Z Nation set. But also we're excited at Spokane Talks. We have several shows, different genres, from real estate radio, Spokane Talks Live, Meet the Candidates, The Locker Room. We have several shows coming to you that can be found on all social media platforms, as well as coming up on Fox 28. Thank you so much. It's been a great opportunity being here at Z Nation set. Thank you.
Welcome back to Library Out Loud. I'm Jane Baker talking with Dr. Paul Lindhold about his book at the Spokane River. Again, thank you for joining me and talking about this great book. 28 authors in it, wonderful authors. What is your favorite piece?
Rather than play favorites, I would say the one that has made the deepest impression on me is the chapter on archaeology. And 3 archaeologist colleagues of mine at Eastern Washington University collaborated to write a chapter on the degree of use that the river enjoyed by the local tribes. And it was a gathering place for tribes from all over the inland Northwest. And that habitation goes back 8,000 years, making it the oldest, quote unquote, city in present day Washington State.
That's amazing.
They gathered to gather salmon and to trade for other goods and just to build culture. So it's a wonderful place we live in historically, archaeologically.
So kind of I believe an annual event for the tribes to gather. And you said at the confluence of Hangman Creek.
Correct.
And the Spokane River.
That's
Am I
right.
getting that right? Okay.
It's the present day, of course, location of what we call People's Park. And so there's a fun conjunction that came in 1974 when the Expo 74 took place, and it was a gathering place for indigent people, if you will. Some call them hippies. I don't like to use the word, but they got free lodging, so to speak, right there.
Right, that's just perfect place for it then. So there's a lot of history there in the People's Park area. So this is very exciting, and I hope people buy this book. And places they can buy it are
Auntie's Bookstore.
Yes.
And Costco.
That's pretty exciting.
Of course, we won't mention Amazon. Oops, I did already. But yeah, we want to support independent and local bookstores whenever we can.
Absolutely. And I work for the library, so I have to say it's also available for checkout at the library as well. So get it on hold and make sure and read it. So Spokane River, Dr. Paul Lindhold, and all the proceeds benefit the Spokane River Keepers. We'll see you next time on Library Out Loud.
Cindy Haval is a freelance columnist and correspondent for the Spokesman Review and author of War Bonds, Love Stories from the Greatest Generation. The view from her porch is usually sunny.
We had a new addition to our family this spring, and I'm starting to get worried my friends are getting tired of hearing me talk about her. Ruby Sue is just amazing. She's helpful, easygoing, and she's been so patient with me as we try to get to know each other. Ruby Sue is a 2015 Ford Titanium. She's got a sparkly red paint job and drives like a dream. The only drawback is Ruby Sue is high-tech, and I am strictly low-tech. The first technical difficulty happened when it was time to leave the dealership. The salesman tossed me the key fob and waved goodbye. I slid into the smooth leather seats and adjusted the lumbar support, and then I pushed the start button. Nothing happened. I fiddled with some more things and pushed the button again, and the car still didn't start. In fact, the radio came on. I swiped some things on the screen, and then I actually read it. Push brake to start car. Atta girl, Ruby Sue. Slowly but surely, I've been getting used to her bells and whistles, and she's got a lot of them. A parking assist feature, for one. You can be sure I had my husband as my co-pilot when I tried that one out. Okay, honestly, I made sure he was in the driver's seat. I wasn't the only one screaming like a girl when Ruby Sue started spinning her wheel around like Linda Blair's head in The Exorcist as she ably parallel parked herself into a tight spot at Kendall Yards. I've gotten used to giving her verbal commands like call home or find Trader Joe's. I was feeling pretty confident when I picked my son up recently until I tried to unlock the passenger door. I noticed this handy little keypad with some numbers on it, so I pushed number 2. That must unlock the passenger door, right? Wrong. My seat started levitating. Then it crept forward. I yelled, "Stop, Ruby Sue, stop!" It seems my car comes with a seat memory option, and I'd hit the option for the former driver, who must have been about 5 feet tall with really short legs. Thankfully, my head was pressed against the roof of the car and the steering wheel was under my ribs, but thankfully I knew where the seat adjust buttons were, and I was able to extricate myself before I suffocated. I still adore Ruby Sue, but I'm not in any hurry to push any more of her buttons, if you know what I mean. I would hate to have to name her Christine. And that's the view from my front porch.
Thank you for joining us on tonight's episode of Spokane Talks, your home for news, views, and conversation. We'll see you next week.
See you tomorrow night, and thanks again for taking care of the painting.
I got this.
Bye.
Weekends are made for painting. Let the experts at Rada Paint take care of you.
Hi. This looks amazing.
Rada Paint, over 80 years of quality, tradition, and trust. Find it in every can.
Spokane Talks is about you. Give us your feedback and comments at info@SpokaneTalksMedia.com. Spokane Talks is brought to you in part by McNeese Wheeler Attorneys, Ponderosa Republican Women, and Rada Paint. We'll be back next week with additional news, views, and conversations. Please join us. So long for now.